and welcome you to our little FreeCAD class. So maybe just a little word on my history with FreeCAD. So since I'm a big fan of open source software, I spent the last 10 years trying to switch to FreeCAD from like other CAD software. But one thing I was always missing was a proper assembly module. So for doing like just simple one-part models, FreeCAD has been good enough for ages. But I was missing the assembly module, and it seemed that nothing is happening. So I spent like 10 years like going on the FreeCAD website once a week, being like, oh, is there something, any news on the assembly? But yeah, nothing happened. But at some point, I got in contact with the people from Open Source Ecology, and let me just think I had a page open. Oh yeah, here. So yeah. So Open Source Ecology has been using FreeCAD for a long time, and they just completely ignored the assembly because it was easy to just move parts around, just manually moving them, like you can move them numerically. Of course, if some dimensions change, you have to move everything back into place, which for me as a CAD geek, I just couldn't bear this. Like I had spent like 10 years working with like Katya and Pro Engineer and stuff. I was like, no, come on, like without a proper assembly module, this is unusable. Like this is the benefit of CAD, that everything updates automatically. So I'm not gonna work like in SketchUp. I was like, come on, like if it doesn't have an assembly, I won't use it. But it turns out that you can design some quite amazing machines. I think most of those machines here are all designed in FreeCAD. And okay, you have to go through some trouble if your assembly changes and you have to put everything back into its place. But it's completely usable even without an assembly module, just using the most basic features. And Martin has proven that this is feasible. And if you're skipping all the complicated stuff, you can teach FreeCAD to like a 10th grader in a day, and it's usable, and it's probably easier than OpenSCAD or other alternatives. If you go through the open source ecology wiki, you can find tons of models modeled in FreeCAD, and yeah, so I thought, hey, like if they can do it without the assembly, then maybe I'll just give it a try, you know? But then I discovered the assembly 2 module. So if you go up into this little drop down where it probably says start in your place, like it always starts like this. But if you open this, then there's one that is called A2 Plus, which for me was the first assembly module that was usable. And if this doesn't appear in your place, don't worry, I will explain this in a second. And so the original developer of FreeCAD, the German engineer, I think that the core team is 3 people. One is a Brazilian Portuguese. No, actually he's French, but he lives in Brazil. He's really awesome. He's an architect, and he builds houses with FreeCAD for many years already. And he's very active in the development. And then I think there's another 2 guys that are doing most of the work. And the founder of FreeCAD, like he's very, like he doesn't want to rush it with the assembly module. He wants to properly implement it in C, or in, I think it's C++. And but this will take some time, and he's a busy man, so yeah, it hasn't happened yet. But in the meanwhile, people got so impatient that they started to code their own assembly modules. And it started with, I think right now there's assembly 1, assembly 2, assembly 2 plus, and assembly 3. And all of them are coded in Python, I guess. So they're not really in the core of FreeCAD. And so they're not exactly perfect. So we're still waiting for the one perfect assembly module, but this might take another few years. Since A2 Plus, I think it became usable, but it has this one, so the most serious problem of FreeCAD is what they call the topological naming issue. And if you Google for this, I'm sure there's going to be lots of hits. And this is like an issue that CAD programs have always had, yeah? Topological naming problem. So the problem is, like you have the CAD kernel, yeah? And actually there's not so many kernels out there, like most of the CAD programs, like from the thousands of CAD programs, there's maybe 20, 30 kernels. So most of them use the same kernels. So if I Google for geometric modeling kernel, you can find a quite interesting list of all the kernels that are out there. And you will realize that most programs use the same one. So this is it, yeah. This is all the kernels there are. Of course, there's the big names like Dassault Systems and Siemens and Autodesk. But if you look at the long list of CAD programs, which include, let's see if you find Fusion in there. So Fusion 360 is actually using Shape Manager, just like Inventor and just like AutoCAD. So yeah, I think one of the best kernels is Granit from Creo. It's a very modern kernel. This is one of the youngest ones as well. Of course, Parasolid. This is also everywhere. Like Onshape is using Parasolid, and then you have big kernels like, let's see what Katia is using. So Katia, they have their own kernel, and what are we missing? Yeah, Creo, Katia, and yeah. So Parasolid is kind of old school, but Siemens NX, the most expensive CAD software there is actually still using Parasolid, which in my opinion is not a very good sign. I don't know if they do some special magic to it, but this is actually like quite old. But and then if you look for FreeCAD in here, you see it's using Open Cascade. And Open Cascade is the only open source kernel in this whole list, as far as I know. And there's many CAD softwares that use Open Cascade. It's a boundary representation kernel, like most of the others. So it's not really a solid modeler. It's a bit like Rhino, where if you it's fake solids. It's not really solid, but this only becomes visible in some extreme cases. But actually, I would love this not to be a BRAP, but like a solid constructive solid geometry is like the right word for it. But hey, we can't have everything. So right now, this is the only open source stuff we get. And Open Cascade seems to be quite powerful. And FreeCAD is doing its best to make a good CAD software with it. But it has this one problem, which is the topological naming problem. So whenever you create a solid, which is actually made of surfaces, all those surfaces get a number. So it just numbers all the surfaces one by one. So actually the main surface is a mathematical formula, like a NURBS object. And then it mostly has like a curve that crops like this. It limits the size of your shape. And so every little surface of your model is basically a trimmed surface, and they just get ordered. So each little patch has a number. and if you poke a hole into a face, it will renumber the surfaces, and your face might get another number, which is kind of a bummer, because if you have an assembly where you have a constrained surface to surface, and suddenly your surface changes name, the assembly doesn't fit together anymore, because it tries to fit parts to other places that change their number. And there are several workarounds. And this is a problem that even Katya and Creo and NX used to have. They also found workarounds for making this a lot better, but you can still get topological naming problems. One way around this is to simply start a new plane whenever, instead of sketching this directly on your object, you just create a new plane and sketch on this one, which is a pain in the ass, but it solves your problem. And so, if you're interested, just have a read at this page. It explains quite nicely what the problem is and the cheats around it. This would be the cheat, to just insert a plane each time, which I would like to avoid, but yeah, this is just for your information. So the assembly 2 module had exactly this problem. So whenever you made an assembly and changed a part in a way that it would change the surface numbering, your assembly would give you a message telling you that it can't find some references, and you're basically you have to redesign, you have to reassemble everything. Fortunately, it's very quick to assemble stuff in FreeCAD, quicker than in Fusion, in my opinion. And so maybe a bit more than a year ago, I decided, okay, I'll go with FreeCAD, and I started using FreeCAD almost exclusively. And my first test project was a big CNC milling machine. And so I told myself, hey, if I can model this, then that's good enough, and I will keep going with FreeCAD. And it worked. And I do have some problems with the assembly, but it's still possible, and it's not like that it was a complete pain to use it. Yeah, and actually in the middle of all of this, I switched between Linux and Windows, and Windows decided that all my Linux files are corrupted, and you know those underscore found 00 files that you sometimes see in Windows, where Windows had the check disk checking your hard disk, and it decided, oh, this is garbage, and it puts it in this found folder. So halfway through designing this milling machine, suddenly all my files were gone, because I switched to Windows for some stupid reason. And turns out that even if you take an assembly and you rename all the files to .00 and lose all the information, if you name them properly again, everything will fit together again without any problems. So in this case, FreeCAD is extremely robust. So as long as the files have the right name, they will fit together. So you can do all those dirty tricks where you copy one file and you just rename it and then use it for something else. FreeCAD doesn't care. It doesn't require any internal IDs and stuff like Fusion does. As long as it's a file and it has the right name, it will fit into your FreeCAD assembly. And if the surfaces still have the same name, you won't even have to reassemble it. And so this was what I call the CNC Bilbao. And you can see it's a heavy model, but even with recording and everything at the same time, it runs smoothly on my crappy laptop. And we made all the design, all the drawings, everything is running here in FreeCAD. But actually, the very first model that I got in deeper touch with FreeCAD was the D3D. And I just opened this for demonstrating that FreeCAD is not. You can throw quite a lot of geometry at it, and it won't complain. Just have to find the right file. I think it's OZ master D3D universal. And I usually name my assembly files assembly underscore and then the name. So I have them on top. Because FreeCAD doesn't distinguish between assemblies and normal files, same way that Fusion does. So yeah, assembly files are exactly the same than any other file. So now I already have like the big milling machine open, and now I'm opening yet another file. It might take a little while, but it won't crash on you. Like I'm doing this on purpose now, just for demonstrating that it's not like, you know, in German we would say an Eiertanz, where you like, you know, this game where you have to hold an egg on a spoon and run around the block. No, it's not like this. Fusion is like this. I can hardly start Fusion without it crashing, but FreeCAD doesn't give me any trouble. So this is the little D3D, and it's super fluid and like a joy to work with. And here you can see that this is all assembled using the A2 Plus module. So this gives you this menu bar where you can just click on a component. Let me see. Oh, I click on this one, and I click on the little pencil icon. And so this will open the next stage of assembly file. And then if I click on a single component and click the pencil button, I'm in the design file of this one part. I can do all my changes. I hit save and I go back to my assembly, and you have to click this reload button, and then everything updates, and yeah, so easy peasy. Like a few weeks ago, I opened the assembly 3 module for the first time. So this one is still quite new. And so I did my usual test. I assembled some pieces, and then I poked some holes in there, and just for checking if everything is still regenerating. And turns out, no problems. It works. Still have no idea how they do it, but it seems like assembly 3 is even better than A2 Plus. So I will reassemble all my machines in assembly 3, and yeah, and pray that I won't have to do this so many times. But yeah, as you will see, assembling in FreeCAD is pretty quick. And there's lots of modules for all kinds of stuff. There's like a robotic workbench where you can drag and drop KUKA robots and program and generate G code. There's a tech draw part that we're also going to use today. So now you can make proper technical drawings. I haven't tried the surface modeling yet. There's spreadsheet is also still quite new. This allows you to do all the parametric stuff, like what Ahmed was doing today. The sketcher by itself, I never use it. I always use the part design, where the sketcher is integrated. 3D printing tools, never tried it, but I think you can. I think Slicer can be integrated into FreeCAD. Reverse engineering would be very interesting. Like FreeCAD also works with meshes, even big scans and stuff. Reporting, ray tracing points, I have no idea. Path is also still quite new. It allows you to generate G code. Even some quite advanced stuff like making G code for drag knives, and yeah, so I think it is advanced enough for actually using it. Then there's part and part design. Part comes, I feel it comes more from like the architectural side, but there's sometimes you need features from part, but 90% of the time I'm in part design. And yeah, I will show you, we might have a quick look at part as well. You can use OpenSCAD inside FreeCAD, which is nice. And then mesh design, inspecting, blah, 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 no idea. There's an FEM module in there, which is also very interesting. And draft is also more for architects. So you have like presets for windows and doors and plugs and stuff. Oh, and Arch. Arch is for really drawing walls and making houses. And this is where the Brazilian guy is very active. Keep forgetting his name, but yeah, you should look at his blog. Like, he's really cool. Also, if you want to hear some Brazilian with a French accent, it's hilarious. Okay, and so just for a starter, I want to build this little Lego brick with you today. Oh, I still haven't completely finished it. It's missing some parts, but yeah, let's just close this and start from scratch. So we make a new file and we switch to part design. Maybe give me a short thumbs up if you're ready. Okay, Bashko, Gerhard, Daniele, Halle, Jefferson, perfect. Okay, I will try to collapse this window so it doesn't annoy you. Okay. Okay, part design. First thing to do in part design is to create a body, which is this symbol on the left, which looks like a blue Tetris piece. You just click it, that's all you need. And then we click on the sketch, which is right next to it. And then we choose a plane, either by clicking on it here in the 3D view, or just by clicking here on the text, and we select OK. And this takes you into Sketcher view. So right now we're in Sketcher, and you can see that the interface changed a little bit. And the file I want to draw today is this Lego piece. So I will try to put this here somewhere to the side so that we can all see it. Let me see if I manage to make this a bit smaller. Well, you know what? I will post this PDF in Discord, so you can download it and have a look yourself. Not sure if this worked. Try again. Ah, come on. Okay. So this gives you the basic dimensions. And let's start by drawing this rectangle, which is 16 by 32. And I would ask you to pay attention to the way I'm doing it. Of course, there's always several ways of doing it. I used to draw this part going in here, but I decided to make it symmetric to the origin, just for showing you the symmetric constraints. So I go up here, If your toolbars are kind of messed up, you might have to, you can take them and drag them and they will rearrange. Unfortunately, they will also rearrange without you asking for it. So sometimes they appear in different places once you restart FreeCAD, which is a bit annoying. Also on Macs, sometimes the symbols are huge and sometimes it opens all the toolbars at once, but it's possible to tidy this up. Yeah. So,
Sorry for that.
Yeah?
Before you start, I got lost just in doing the sketch.
Okay. I will quickly repeat. So I make a new file.
Yeah.
I switch to the part design. There's like a little drop down somewhere top in the middle, and I select part design. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I click on this little blue Tetris piece for creating a body. And I click on the sketch.
Okay.
Which is right next to it. Then I select the XY plane and I hit OK.
Okay.
All right?
Yep, thank you.
Then I take the rectangle tool and I draw a rectangle that is kind of like in the middle. And now you see that I'm in the rectangle drawing tool. If I want to leave this tool, I either hit escape or I right click. So if I right click, I go back to the normal pointer and I can select stuff. And I want to select those 2 points and the line in the middle. And I have to hold Control while I select the points. So they turn green. And I select the 2 points first and then the line. And then I use the symmetry constraint, which is the one that looks like a bigger, smaller sign. Or you can also hit the S key. So all of those tools, they also have a shortcut. So if you want to make something horizontal, it's the H key, and something vertical would be the V key. And if you want to make a horizontal constraint or a dimension, you hold Shift H or Shift V. So they're not exactly easy to type, but they're easy to remember.
Ferdi, the multi-selection is not with Shift instead of Control. It's Control.
Yeah,
okay.
Let me try if it works with Shift as well. Oh, it also works with Shift.
Yeah, because with me controls, it pops up a constraint. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. For me, it works with Control and with Shift. And so now I have this one symmetry, and I'm going to do the second symmetry with those 2 points. And I hit symmetry again. And now I have a rectangle that I can move, and it will always stay symmetric to the middle. Right? So there's no workarounds. Like, oh yeah, one announcement, like, this is not like Fusion. Like, if you're expecting to be, like, Fusion is a lot more sophisticated and a lot more easy in quotes. But if you compare Fusion to, let's say, Pro Engineer or Creo or Katia, then I would say that Fusion is as underdeveloped in comparison to Katia as FreeCAD is to Fusion. So yeah, it's on a good way. It's on a good way. Give it another 10 years and it's going to be awesome. But if you're looking for like the midpoint constraint or something, this just doesn't exist. And you would say like, what? How can I work with a CAD program that doesn't recognize midpoints? Then I would say like, how can you work with Fusion where you can't make a variable radius round? Like that's unusable. Yeah. So there's always going to be something missing. The good thing about FreeCAD is with Python you can do anything. So there's always like whatever you ask for FreeCAD. Hey, why doesn't this not exist? The answer will be, oh, you can do it with Python. So yeah, that's always the last word, which is not exactly satisfying, but it is possible. Okay, everybody has a symmetric rectangle. I still hear some clicking sounds, so I wait another little bit. You see how everybody's doing. Okay. Give me a little nod or something. Awesome. Okay. So now we're gonna add the dimensions. So and there's two ways of dimensioning this line. You can tell that this line already has a vertical constraint. So we actually don't really have to tell it anymore that it's vertical. So I could just select this line. Maybe let's do it like in two different ways. I select this line and I click this button, which is just a diagonal length dimension. This is normally used for lines that are not horizontal or vertical. And but it's a bit easier to use because you just have to select the line and click, and that's it. Whereas in the horizontal and vertical dimensions, you have to select 2 points. Actually, I might have to double check. Might have changed in the meantime. So this is going to be 32. And let's do this one like the conventional way. So I select 1 point, shift select the other one, and add a horizontal dimension, which is going to be 16. And you can see that our rectangle turned green, which means that it's fully constrained. So now I can't move anything anymore. All right. So once I'm finished with this, I have to get rid of this stupid WebEx thing up there. And then I click on this up arrow. And yeah, I hope you can see this on my screen. I think you could also just click close up here. And I think you can also just escape. Yeah. So there's several ways of leaving the sketcher. And I usually use the up arrow, but escape or close would also work. And once we have this, we make an extrude, which is this yellow cube. Yeah. And I just select it, and the default value is 10, which is exactly what we need. And so we can just say OK, and we have the first bit of our Lego piece. Everything good so far? Extrude is the yellow. It might be in a different place. In German, they call it selektierte Skizze aufpolstern. And it's a yellow cube with like a white rectangle under it.
Yes, I don't have it on my line.
You are in Partisan?
Yeah.
And you left the sketch?
Yeah, no. I
So
have to go in Partisan.
Yeah. Okay. And you might have to leave the sketch, which is either by hitting escape or by clicking close on a button. You got it? Okay. Maybe let's have a quick look at this panel on the left. there's one that is called tasks, and the other one is called model. And if we look into model, we can see that there's our body that we created in the very beginning. There's an origin. If we click on it and hit the space bar, we can show and hide it. So this is our ground planes, which are just created by default. I usually have them hidden. And then we have a pad, which is the extrusion we just made, with a sketch that we can edit by right-clicking and saying Edit Sketch. You can also double-click it, which would take me back to the sketcher. And if I want to leave the sketcher, I just hit the up arrow and I'm back into 3D. And I have to change to model again, which is a bit annoying. Then there's a whole lot of like extra thingies down here, but yeah, don't be scared. For the moment, we don't really need them, but this comes in quite handy for adjusting all kinds of stuff. And you have view and data. So there's 2 tabs down here as well. Okay, let's create another sketch on the top surface. So we just click on the top surface and click on sketch again. Just like before, like the little white symbol with like red square and circle right next to the Tetris brick. And this should take us on a sketch plane that is already on top of our cube. Up till recently, this wasn't possible. So but now you can sketch on other surfaces. And let's make a circle, which is don't confuse this circle with this one or this one. It's the one that says create a circle. Yeah. And I'm gonna click once for defining the center, and then click another time for defining the radius. And I put it in the lower left corner, and I right-click for leaving the circle tool. Now I want to dimension the circle. And in Fusion, if you hover over one of the edges, it will automatically highlight those edges. FreeCAD doesn't. So if you want to pick an edge from down here, you have to use this tool that might be a bit hidden. It's a blue. Oh, come on. It's a blue cube with like with a line extracted. So I select this one. In my case, it's in this drop-down menu, but I hope you'll find it. And I select this one, and then I click on the left edge of my cube. And once I have this red line, I can right-click, so I'm back into select mode. Does this work? Harley, Vashko? You having difficulties finding the symbol?
I'm having an error in the beginning. I cannot constrain it. It gives an error, and like I can't solve it now.
Okay, my recommendation in general for software is if something doesn't work, just start from scratch. Just make a new file.
But it's a symmetry. It says it's over constraint, and then it gives error.
Yeah. Just restart. I can. Should I walk you through the beginning?
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I leave, and we make a new file. I make the new body, new sketch, XY plane. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Rectangle tool.
Yes.
I draw my rectangle. I right-click.
Yes.
I select my 2 points and the line in the middle.
Wait. Yeah, the symmetry, right?
And I put the symmetry in one direction, and I put the symmetry in the other direction.
Okay. No, it's okay.
So far, so good. Then
Yeah.
I select the left line and I use the length dimensioning tool
Yes.
and I make it 32.
32. Yes, I'm getting an error here. It says datum 32 millimeters for constraint with index 10 is invalid.
Ah, okay, then try the following. Select the lower point and the upper point
Okay.
with control, and then select the vertical dimension.
32, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives the same error.
Ah, damn.
Yes.
Are you selecting the vertical constraint or the horizontal constraint, Vasco?
It's the vertical or the diagonal. It gives the same error.
The same error, okay.
Okay, so just delete the square and make a new square, and this time start on the center point and draw a rectangle like this.
I think it's better to start the FreeCAD anyway. Just a moment.
Okay, I quickly get something to drink.
It's quite a new version. I don't know why it's. Okay. Part design, body. Create sketch. Choose Y. Okay. Let's try the origin thing. Temos linha de.
Oh, actually, I just realized that you don't have to select the points. You can also select the line and then give it a vertical dimension, which makes it much easier. Yeah.
So it's 1632. So what will be the third constraint?
Well, this is enough. If your rectangle turns green, then you're ready to continue.
Okay, but I need the third constraint.
Like if you did not click on this very middle point in the beginning, so if you have something like this,
yes, it maybe it's a little way off.
yeah, then you have to select this point and the middle point.
Okay.
And then you click on the coincident. No, you click on this one here. The one that is like a dot with like 4 little things.
What is that?
It can also be just a dot. My version is just a dot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It should also work with the C key.
Yes, it's a dot. Now it's constrained. Okay, you can continue.
Okay. Let me just quickly make the 16 and 32.
It's a strange error. I don't know why it's going.
Yeah, maybe we can investigate after.
Yes. After we'll see what is it.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Okay.
And so we make it extruded by 10.
By 10, yeah. Now it's working fine.
Okay. And then we make another sketch on the top surface.
What is the...
And I draw a circle.
Okay. Circle. Yes.
Then I right click for leaving this tool.
Okay.
In Vasco's case, you don't have to, but the others might want to choose this little. Or let me fix this once and for all. Like actually, I don't need this here at all. And then I can take this one down. And so you should see like a symbol that looks like a blue box. And pick edges from like other geometry. Which is actually, I kind of like it because it reminds you that you're actually now creating an external reference to your sketch. Sometimes you don't want to have external references. Many times you have to. But at least FreeCAD keeps it very clear what is like external dimensions and what not. And so if they break, you know, aha, it was an external reference and you can fix it. Whereas Fusion doesn't tell you anything. It just says it's broken. Okay. And so once you have this, you can dimension the circle to be first with a horizontal dimension. So you select the corner point and the center point of the circle, and we make a horizontal constraint, which is 4 millimeters. And then we do the same, but this time we use a vertical dimension, and we also make it 4. And then I select the outer part, and I click on the diameter dimension, which is like hidden under the radius dimension. And the shortcut is still Shift R, no matter if it's diameter or radius. And we make it 5 millimeters. And so the circle should turn green, so we're fully constrained. And then I can leave the sketch either by hitting this button or closing the tasks. And then we hit the extrude button again and extrude it by, I think it's 1.2 millimeters, 1.5. And I think FreeCAD allows you to use comma and point indifferently. I think if you, in some cases, you have to make it clear that it's not like the thousands point, but like the comma. But in most cases, you can just use whatever you want. Okay, everybody there?
Everybody knows how to move the.
Yeah. Okay. One important thing that I completely forgot.
Yes.
Which is the 3D navigation. So FreeCAD copied the 3D navigation from Katya, which is actually my favorite way of 3D navigation, because in most programs you have you use your mouse buttons in conjunction with Shift or Control or Alt. In some programs you don't need the keys, but then you mostly don't have a right click, like the way it is in some programs. Katya implemented this 3D navigation where you only need the mouse. You don't need any keys, but you have to use some of the keys at the same time. And since you still want to have a right click, it's most of the stuff is just done with the left mouse and the middle mouse button. So if you want to pan your model, you just middle click, which allows you to pan. If you rotate the mouse wheel, you do the zoom. And if you want to orbit is the correct expression. You press the middle mouse button first, and then you click the left mouse button at the same time. And now you can orbit your model. But it only works if you hold the middle mouse button first, the mouse wheel, then left click, and then you can orbit. And if you release the left mouse button, I know this is different yeah, if you mid-click and then left-click just shortly, you also enter in a zoom mode. So there are several ways of zooming, either with the mouse wheel or middle left-clicking shortly. And yeah, left-click and shift also works. Oh yeah, left-click and shift, right, left. No, for me it doesn't work, but
right
yeah.
control and right shift. It's also useful.
Okay. You can also right-click, and then there's navigation styles, and you can choose like cut is actually cut here, but you can also choose like the Blender or Maya or yeah, there's different ways of doing it. I really like the one that they call cut here because it gives you all the options without having to touch the keyboard. And usually I like keeping my software in the default mode. So whenever you change something, each time you switch computer, you have to like customize it again. So I would recommend you to get used to the middle left click, but yeah, whatever you prefer. This works? Yeah? Great. So so now we go up here, we go to model and we select our pad. So you can see that this has added another feature where our sketch is below. And I just click on it once. And now I go up here and there's a button that says create multiple transformations. Oh, I'm just realizing that I have a meeting in right now. Shit. Let me quickly call Ahmed and see if this is all right. If I missed this one, just 1 second. Probably he can't answer the phone because he's at university. Hey, Ahmed? Hey, Ahmed. Sorry, we're in the middle of the FreeCAD class. Do you need me for the farm robot? Okay, yeah. If you need me, just let me know and we take a short break. Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Okay, sorry guys. Let's continue. So what did we just do? Yeah, so we selected the pad and we clicked on the multi-transform tool. And you should see like a dialog box where we can select pad 001, which is the little knob we made on top. And then we right-click in transformations and we say add linear pattern.
I have one question. If we have multiple of these cylinders already, how do we know that this is pad 001?
Oh, like if you look in the tree on the model, you can see
It's
that
the name of it. Okay.
It's the name of it. You can rename it. Like if I wait, how was it? Yeah, right click, rename. I could call it knob 1. It's good practice to rename your features, but it's depends on how tidy you are. Like I usually try to rename my stuff, but in this case I forgot. And but also I ask you to select this one first. So if we don't select anything, then we get several choices here. But if you select it before clicking the multi-transform, it's the only one that shows up. So it's kind of easy. And then I right-click and I do the linear pattern. And I will have to scroll down a little bit. And for the moment, everything disappears. But don't worry. First, we should change the distance to 24. Oh, no, sorry. It's this distance from one side to the other, which is 8. So we change distance to 8 and number to 2. And we can see that our little second knob appears. We could flip the direction, so it would pattern to the other side. Might be different in your case, but can switch it back. If this doesn't look like this in your case, you might want to switch between horizontal and vertical axis. In my case, it's the horizontal one, which makes sense. It's the red one, the x-axis. Yeah, let me know if this doesn't work. Okay, and then we can do the pattern in the other direction right away by clicking in transformations again and saying linear pattern again. And this time we want a distance of 24. And a number of 4. And I have to switch to the vertical sketch axis. Might have to switch the direction, but yeah, I hope this works for you. Daniele got it. Jefferson also. Harley. Vaško Gerhard, is this working?
Oh, I have to leave. I have to put out my father.
Okay.
He phoned me. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, and so now we can confirm our operation by hitting OK on the very top. And we should have like a Lego brick that is still not hollow. And so actually I prepared this tutorial hollowing out the bottom manually, because last year FreeCAD still didn't have like a does. So we should make sure to select like the bottom face, and then we click on the shell command, which is in German it calls it a thickened body. It's the fourth one in the row next to the round and the chamfer. We select the bottom face, hit the chamfer, the shell command, and let's make it 1,2 millimeters. And down here, I will tell it that I want, like, by default, it grows to the outside and rounds the edges, but I want to grow to the inside. And now you see that it rounds those edges, which I also don't want, which is why I have to select Schnitt down here. And now we get the type of holes that I wanted. There also used to be a way where you can just, like, if you spin your model and release the buttons while you're still moving your mouse, it would just keep spinning, which was kind of fun, but I don't manage to do it right now. I don't know.
Ferdy, can you explain again? I didn't follow the last part.
So you select the bottom face,
Yes,
and you click on the shell command.
Yes.
We want 1.2 millimeters.
Yes.
And
now?
we check the lowest check mark, which says that we want to go to the inside.
Inside, okay, that's what I was missing. Okay.
And in the second drop-down, we choose the second option, which is Schnitt in my case.
But it didn't work. Okay. It doesn't change the holes inside for some reason. Because
Yeah.
I have skin, pipe, and recto version mode. And if I change from skin to pipe, it doesn't change.
No, that's the other one.
Intersection.
It's the second drop down.
Okay. Right,
Yeah.
right. But now the holes are very small, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
In our case, it's intersection, I think, Vasco.
Yes, it's intersection.
Yeah.
But why are we doing this?
Just as an exercise. It's just
Yeah,
like
the
this is
thing
an
I understand, but, the little holes. Why we are? How? Let me see.
like if you look at the real Lego piece, it actually looks like that. Because for injection molding, you want to keep the wall thickness constant. So real Lego pieces actually look quite similar to that.
Okay, so it has a smaller hole inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lego pieces actually have vertical walls, which is completely unusual for plastic injection molding. Normally, everything out of plastic has like a slight chamfer, whereas Lego pieces are really square, which is Lego pieces are very amazing. Like if you look at it from a production point of view, they're awesome. And yeah, so this was a SolidWorks tutorial that I gave ages ago, and I actually measured a Lego piece, and so yeah, so I'm just replicating what the real Lego looks like.
Okay.
So Ferdi, this shell command that we are using, it just makes an offset from the other surface, the opposite surface that you are clicking, basically, no?
Yeah.
But keeps the old features. So if on the top we have the cylinders, it makes the small hole from the bottom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the last FreeCAD tutorial I did, I just extruded a box and then made a pattern of all those little knobs. And so this is much easier now. Okay, and so now what you're missing is the little pieces in the bottom. So we select the bottom face, make a new sketch. First I have to click OK. Then you can see this is our thickness. Then I select the bottom face, make a new sketch, and draw a circle. Right click, and then I select my, in the case, for the ones that made it symmetric, you might have to pick another edge with this tool in order to get the right dimension. In my and Vasko's case, we can just select the origin point and the center of the circle, and Shift H for making a horizontal dimension, which should be 8. And then select both points again and do the Shift V for making a vertical dimension, which is also 8. And Shift R for constraining the diameter, which I think is 6. No, it's 6.5. And then we add another circle right in the middle. If you click exactly on the center point of the first one, it will auto constrain it to be coincident. If you happen to click not exactly on it, you might have to add like a coincident constraint afterwards. Shift R and 5. Everybody looks very serious, so I guess you're still fighting. Maybe give me a short thumbs up. Awesome.
Yes, my drawing is constrained, but the markings disappear, that they are messed up but that's another problem, I guess. So,
okay. Yeah, we should have another look at your design afterwards with screen sharing.
okay.
But the circles are there, no?
It's I like the inner circle. I need the inner circle. Wait, how much is it?
5.
5. Okay.
Okay, I'll continue slowly. So so we leave the sketch again.
Okay.
Escape, close, up arrow.
I think we see it.
And then we do the extrude again.
Cannot.
And this should be, let me check, 1 point something. Oh, I didn't put it. No, it's 8.8. Of course, our wall thickness is 1.2. So 8.8. And we should have our little knob on the inside. And then it's the same game than before. And we select the pad. And this time we do a simple linear pattern. And we want 3 with a distance of 16.
Sorry, what is the height? I'm not.
8.8.
8.8. Where is that?
It's in the bottom right. Yeah.
8.8. Okay.
And I will have to switch to vertical sketch direction, and I have to flip the direction.
Ah, nice.
Okay, and then we should have our finished Lego piece. Like we could go ahead and like write the little Lego in the middle, but yeah, I guess by now you can guess that this is just another repetitive task. But if you wanted the perfect replica, we were missing the Lego letters. But then I would also want to get like the Lego font, and then this would take us half an hour. So let's just skip it and go into something more interesting. I will save my file. And there's absolutely nothing special about saving files in FreeCAD. It's just, yeah, file save. Okay, everybody there? Should we have a short break or do we continue? Yeah, let's continue. You still look fresh.
Fer, just one question. How can I remove the axis? They appeared from somewhere, and I will.
You click on origin. Can you see my screen? And
Yes.
you hit the space bar.
Okay. Yeah, spacebar is nice because you can remove and add. I didn't notice that. Thanks.
You can also remove the single steps that you did by hitting space on other steps, which is like the history in Fusion. So here we only had the knob. We go to the next one, we get the pattern, and if you go to the last one, we get our finished part. It's a bit confusing, I think, but yeah, it's something you have to know, that space toggles the visibility, or it takes you back in history, so to say. Okay, since it's the laser cutting week, I would like to quickly dive into the tech draw so we can make a drawing of this. And so we change workbench by going from part design to tech draw. Be like the third one from the bottom. And for the moment, nothing happens, only like the toolbars change. And if we click on this, the first one will just give you like a standard sized paper. If you click the second one, you can choose your own template, which is just an SVG file that you can easily customize in Inkscape. And I take an A4 portrait, ISO 7200.
TD or PEP?
I don't know. Let's take PEP. I think it's not a big difference. And actually, those templates, they carry some extra information. So there's like hidden parameters. It might take you a little while for understanding how they work, but if you open it in Inkscape, you will hopefully quickly understand that there's some variables in there that you can customize. So it puts the file name, and it puts maybe the date of today, and you can make your own template, and you can change the position of the parameters. This is all the things that appear in green down here. You see? So if you have some extra time, you should like take this template and make it a proper Dean template. This is what I usually do. So for the big CNC machine, I made my own Schriftfeld, like according to German norms, and I put all the right, you know, like this is all normed, like how thick the line is. There's like 3 line types, and what the font is. So if you want, you can go crazy on this. Yeah, but for the moment, let's just leave it. So in this case, you only zoom with the middle mouse button, and you pan also by dragging the middle mouse button. And now one thing you have to know is that like if you add a view, it simply adds the view in the orientation that you have in the 3D. So I have to switch back to 3D and click on, let's say, the top view. Yeah, it's so easy that it's almost funny, but yeah, that's the way it works in FreeCAD. And then you have to select your part, which means you select the last feature. You go back to page, and then we click on this little icon that says Insert View. And there it is. And if you had your 3D part like rotated in some weird angle, it would exactly in this way, which is sometimes quite handy. Like most CAD programs make quite a fuss about this, and you have to choose like all kinds of options and create camera angles and whatnot. In Fusion, it's as simple as clicking one button, and it makes the 3D view a 2D view. And of course, we also want a view from the other side. So I go back to the view.
Sorry, I have one question. It didn't work, but on the view, I get some additional lines on the object, like dots and lines crossing and so on.
Can you quickly share your screen?
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
It's coming, yeah. Oh yeah, that's okay. I will show you in a second how to get rid of those.
Okay.
So now you should be seeing my screen, no? And I switch to front view, and I select my linear pattern again, and I add another view. And yeah, you can just drag around the views. You just take them and drag them. It lets me. Yeah, my computer is a bit slow today, but yeah, it's not going to be the most beautiful drawing. There is a way of connecting views so that they stay aligned even if you move them. But for the moment, we don't care. And we only want, or maybe we make this a bit shorter. Like, if not, we're going to spend like another half an hour making a perfect drawing. But I just want you to see the basics. So let's add a dimension for the height or for the length of our Lego piece. Sorry. In this case, I think I really have to hit Control instead of Shift. And I select the 2 points, and I choose a vertical dimension. And then I can just drag it out. Look nice. And I select the 2 horizontal points. Yeah, Shift doesn't work. It has to be Control. And make a horizontal dimension.
You don't have the units in your screen. You remove them.
Oh, yours is showing you units?
Millimeters, yes.
Yeah. So if you look at here at this left side, I select my view, and then in here there's a few options, and I bet one of them is whether to show the units or not. Let me see. Show and tree, how did it adjust hidden widths, hidden widths? No. Maybe it's in data.
Maybe it's a general one.
So in data, you can choose your scale if you want. And then there's another one which allows you to turn off those center lines, which is like, in my case, I would like to have them on.
Okay.
Because if you want to dimension the center of a circle, right now there's no way I could do this. Coarse view, smooth. For some reason, here. Smooth seam, zero, hard hidden, smooth hidden, seam hidden.
Maybe it's more general.
I think is it ISO? No. False. It's a count source.
It's nice that there's lots of options here too.
Just did arc center marks. So this
Yes,
is probably
yes.
it's probably on in Daniela's case, and it is off in mine. So if I
In
turn
mine, yeah, it's on. Yeah.
If I turn this true, I see the center marks of the circles, which is actually the way a proper technical drawing should be. And then you can also change the size of the center marks. I think in Daniela's case, they are quite big. This is why it looked a bit messy.
Yeah, it doesn't change, but I believe it's another setting. It doesn't matter. I have to dig into the settings.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in English, it's arc center marks.
Yeah.
In view.
Okay.
Not
Yeah.
small. Okay.
Maybe I save you the time for making this whole drawing, but here you can see that it can also do cross sections. So this would be my cross section where you see like the dimensioning the inside of the holes. But I'm sure you will, if you got this far, you will also go the extra meter for making this nice. Maybe just as a hint, if you want to make a cross section, you have to select a view first, and then, or maybe I quickly show this because it's a bit weird, because it doesn't really follow the normal workflow. Because you select a view, and then you have to identify which direction you actually want to go, and then you have to use the number keys and move to the right height for your cross section. So that's a bit weird. Hey, it works. Yeah, a few versions ago there was no cross section at all, so I'm just happy that this at least gives you the option. And you
Yeah,
might
I don't have it, I think.
okay.
I
Yeah,
might have
so,
an old version.
yeah, so you might have to upgrade. And another thing that that is kind of annoying is that that you can hardly see the geometry because of all these dots in there. I'm sure there's a place where you can customize the size of those, but the good thing is once you make a PDF out of it, this will all disappear. So up here you can choose to export a DXF or an SVG. Those two, if you make an SVG and you don't have the right font installed, like all your diameter signs will turn to other symbols. The safest way I found so far is by going to File, Export PDF. This will give you a nice drawing as a PDF, and you could still import it to Inkscape for giving it another format. And I'm sure that if you install the right fonts, you can also use the DXF or the SVG export.
Guys, I'm extremely sorry, but I will leave.
Okay.
I have another meeting at 5. Ferdi, if you share the recordings, I will look at it.
Okay.
It was great. Thank you very much. And sorry, I'm leaving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Like we're now, I want to get into like the parametric part of FreeCAD. Or is there anything else you would prefer to know first? Okay, so let's switch back to our 3D model. I will save it just because. And so wouldn't it be nice if you could just tell FreeCAD, hey, we want like a 4x4 brick or like an 8x8, and it would automatically change all of our parameters in order to reflect this. And this is possible. It gets closer to programming, but yeah, I will try to quickly outline the way. Maybe as a starter, let's make one little thing which is a bit simpler, just for getting the idea. So I go to the very first pad and I enter the sketch by double-clicking it, which gives us our very first drawing. And I double-click the 16, and you can see that there's an optional name that you can give it. So I will call this one width. So whenever you want to use dimensions in your parameters, you have to name them. I think there's a way where you can get there by going like each dimension has a internal path, which would in this case be unnamed 2. That's the name of my file. Then body, which is the name of our body. Pad, which is the first extrusion. Sketch, constraint 10. That's constraint 10, and that's constraint 11. I think there's a way where you can reference your dimensions by using this whole path, but right now it only works for me if I give it a name. So I call this one width, and then if I double click on on the other one, and I click on this little, I could either write equals, or I could click on this little f of x sign, and this opens the formula editor, and I start by writing capital S, and I choose sketch, which auto-completes to sketch dot, and then I call it width. So I just write width, and it doesn't work. Okay, I did something wrong. Why is this? I spelled it right. Actually, yesterday I made like a little GIF just for remembering, which should be in here. So you make a rectangle, you add a dimension, call it width, and then you write constraints.width. Okay, sorry. My brain is bad. So we hit capital C. Now we actually have to type constraint, which is kind of weird. And then we write width. Ah, no, sorry. And of course we have to edit the formula. So I double click this one, go to the formula button, write constraint, and then width. Now it works, and I can add, and you can use all the math that you're used to, and I multiply it by 2, which should give me, yeah, the 32 that we want. Now the dimension is turning gray, and it also changes color in the sketch. It's orange instead of red. And now whenever I change this one, the other one will change with it. All right. Ashko? Yeah? Harley? Okay, awesome. So I leave the sketch again. So this is the easiest way of assigning some parametrics to your model. If you look in the, you can see like, you can have pi in there, and you can have all the math that you want from Python. So let's say you want to make a Tetra Pak, which is the amount of material in relation to the volume. Actually, it's quite interesting about a Tetra Pak or a Coke can. Realize that they use some math for making, for using the least amount of material for enclosing the biggest volume possible. And yeah, so this would be parametrics, and you could make like a family model and have different sizes. Yeah. Let's switch from TechDraw to spreadsheet. So spreadsheet is just like the I think Fusion calls it like the parameter window or something. Yeah, it's very simple. It's just a spreadsheet, and you can make a new one by clicking on the little icon on the top left, and this gives us a standard spreadsheet. So right now we defined the width to be 16. Maybe let's define the number of rows and columns that we want. So I would write here rows, and let's do 2, and I write columns, and I think right now we have 4. And in order for this to work, you have to name those numbers. Like you could still use this like a regular spreadsheet, but if you want to pass on the values to your 3D, you have to right-click Properties, and then choose Alias, and the very last one, and I call this one Rows. Okay, so now my cell will turn yellow, indicating me that I gave it an alias. Do the same for columns. Actually, I think I have too many L's in columns. Ah, no, now if I write columns, it makes 4 out of it. So I have to go back to spelling it wrong. I'm sorry. Okay, so now we could just close the spreadsheet. But actually, I will, if I was able to reach my menu, whoops. If I was able to reach my menu bar up here, the stupid WebEx would disappear. Yes. I can go to Windows. Actually, first I will close some of the windows that I'm not using anymore. So now I only have my 3D, my 2D design, and my spreadsheet. And I can go to Windows and put them one next to the other, so I can see all my stuff at the same time. Okay. Yeah, my computer is slow. Yeah, let's go and go into our multi-transform. No, let's go to our first sketch again. And so actually, instead of writing 16, I will add a formula that says I want the number of rows times 8. And so I start by writing spread, and it gives me spreadsheet dot rows times 8. Okay. Right now it stays the same value. And instead of the 32, I want to put columns times 8. So I have to do spreadsheet again. Columns times 8. Okay. Okay. And I leave the sketch. And I see my 3D model again. And let's say we want like a 3x4. I could just change the number from 2 to 3. And this should change the size of my brick. And now, of course, we have to adjust the number of knobs that we want. So we go into the multi-transform. And this was the first pattern. So I double-click the first pattern, scroll down a little bit. And so instead of number 2, I write the formula. No, I just write rows in here. So I do spreadsheet again and rows. Okay. So this should update to 3. It already did. So we only have to fix our distance, which would be, it was 8 for 2. So I guess it's 12. So it's like number of rows by 4. So I write spreadsheet. Rows times 4. Oh, no, maybe times 5. Looks much better. And I say, okay. And I have my updated Lego brick. And of course, we would have to repeat this. Oh, what happened to our bottom?
It's a bit off. If you have 2 rows, it changes the place.
Yeah. So we would have to repeat this in the other, for the other features and for the other rows, and something went wrong here. Not sure what, but I guess you get the basic idea. Why is this 8.2? Ah, yeah, this was the. Okay, I did something wrong, but I guess you understood that you can use parameters just like in Fusion for defining mathematical relations between your features, and you can yeah, put some intelligence into your model. The tricky part about being a good mechanical designer is deciding where to use all this intelligence and where not. So many times it's useful to use all this math and stuff behind it, but of course there's always limitations where if I make it one by one, it will probably crash. So because the little knob in the middle wouldn't fit in anymore, so you would have to use if and else cases, and it gets quite complicated. So yeah, sometimes you just want to take it off the hook. So you want to have it independent from all your math, and many times it saves you a lot of work, especially if you have parts that repeat or need yeah, all those relations. Okay, I think this would be it for this class, except if you have some more questions. Like this is the very basics of the basics, but for example, for building my big milling, assembly. Of course, sorry, like I forgot. Of course, we have to make a little assembly, no? Are you still?
But we don't have the plugins.
Yeah, I'll show you how to get it.
Okay.
Yeah. So what time is it? It's I can't see my clock. It's
3:46.
okay. Yeah.
Here, 4, I guess. There.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe I just put this back to 2, and I might also save it. Yeah, I messed something up here. Yeah, so the thickness thing is doesn't seem to be happy. I don't know why.
You need to model some parameter that is off. That's all. I think, but I don't know yet what is it.
Okay, you know what? I'll just go back to my saved file. Yeah, but stuff like this, stuff like this is not uncommon in FreeCAD. Like my only recommendation is, instead of spending too much time on because one thing doesn't work, just start from scratch. Just make a new file. Many times this will solve not only your problem, but it's mostly quicker than debugging stuff. If you manage to reproduce the same error twice, write a bug report. But 90% of the time, if you repeat just the same thing you did before, it suddenly works. Don't ask me why. Stupid computers are not as binary as they're supposed to be. Okay, so now if we go to tools, add-on manager. This is the place where you can like install add-ons, and there's tons of them. And there's there's an assembly 4 as well. So yeah, it doesn't stop. Like once you got used to assembly 2, there's 3 and 4. Have a look if you find either assembly 2 plus or assembly 3 in there. I would like to use the assembly 3, which I don't have much experience with yet. If it doesn't appear on your list, you can also take the A2 plus.
Yeah, just the 2 and 4.
Yeah, let's take. Is it A2 plus or just 2?
There's A2 plus.
Okay, then let's take the A2 plus. You got those as well, Harley and Jefferson?
No, I didn't receive you the plugin.
Like if it doesn't appear up here, then you might want to look into Tools Add-on Manager and search for Assembly 2. Like in my case, it says installed. So there's and this is like add-ons, and you also have macros. Macros are more like very small functions. For example, if you wanted to export a list of points from your 3D parts, or here there's one for creating an airfoil, you know, this typical NACA profile. It would just generate an airfoil from in 2D in your sketch. I think there's also some measurement tools in there. There's one that I used a few times for, don't even remember. Yeah, it's just for you to know that if you're missing some functionality, it might be a macro or an add-on. I haven't tried many of them, and one of them gives you a whole list of parts. They're actually a Git repository of FreeCAD parts. I would recommend you to download the repo and insert them manually, because if you click on it here, it will download like a few gigabytes of FreeCAD files, and this might take ages. And in the meantime, your computer is unusable. I don't see them on the first look now, but as I said, it's better to just clone the GitHub repo. And somebody wrote a plugin for making open source ecology 3D printers, which is kind of fun.
Very funny.
Yeah, I just saw this recently. I haven't tried it yet, but this I definitely will. So you can just add x-axis, add y-axis, add heated bed, add extruder. Yeah, kind of cool. Kerkitea is a rendering engine. This is probably for loading from Inventor, and I don't see the parts library. maybe it's this bolts thing. Or under P, parts library, yeah. Yeah, but this one is massive, so like if you just click install, it will take a while. Yeah, and there's no difference in like, or at least I don't see a difference in selecting it in the file manager and selecting it in this plugin. So so I would rather use the clone. But this one, I think it also allows you to publish your own parts into the library. Yeah, but I think you, yeah, I will try and tell you if this got any better. Last time I used it, I decided next time I will just clone it. But of course, you can also use all the parts from Parts Server and Parts for Web, I think is the other big one. I think Jefferson, I was talking about this recently. Yeah. Everybody has the Assembly 2 Plus? Yeah? So I will make you small again. And this is actually super easy. So you just go to the very first one, which says add a part from an external file, or Shift A. And I add the same Lego brick again, doesn't make a difference. And now I have 2 Lego bricks in the same spot. If I double click, no, Ventire. Oh, I think I made some confusion here because I have 2 files open. I'm in Lego 1. On my Lego 2 file here. Oh, I still have the table open, which is from the Lego 2. I will just close the other things here. So Lego 1, I don't know what I did wrong. And I add another Lego 1. Oh, and here it is. So it should appear at your mouse cursor, and you can just click somewhere and it drops it. So now I have my 2 Lego parts. Does this work for you? Okay. And constraining is just like, let's call it the SolidWorks way. So you select 2 faces. Let's take this lower one and this upper one. So just control clicking on the 2 faces, and then this first one with the 2 planes just makes a plane's parallel constraint. What? I think I did something wrong. It might be that I have to nail down the first part first. I will delete this plane's parallel. And I select the first Lego brick. Why does this one not have? I just try again. I will planes parallel to this one. It's working for you? Like in many CAD programs, you have to fix one part, but I don't recall that this is the case for FreeCAD. So I thought I can just like select two faces and make them parallel, and it will move them to the right spot. But it's giving me some trouble. Looks all right. I don't even see a fixed part option. I will try to transform a part, which is just right-click transform. I can move this one a bit around. And I will try another constraint. You get the same message than me? Do you? Okay, like following my own advice, I will just start from scratch. So I close this. I close the whole file. I make a new file. And I will just go back to part design. Make a body, make a sketch. XY plane. Okay. Are you following? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry that this is so strange, but I will just make just a test piece, just a rectangle, maybe with a little hole in there. And Shift H, let's make it 30 by 40, and make this one 20, no 10, and Shift vertical for making this one, and Shift R for making the radius. Everything's green. Use the sketch extrude. We know how you're doing. I know I'm going very fast, but I'm sure you're just as fast as me. Are you? Just make some random sketch. It doesn't really matter if it's the same dimensions than mine. I just want to quickly try what's wrong with my assembly too. So I will extrude this sketch. and is all right. This stupid thing is exactly where I don't need it. Okay. And I just save this one, and I call it body 1. And I make another file. New body, new sketch. And this time I select the XZ plane. And just for a change, I'm going to draw something that is like a rotational object. So I can use the multi-line and draw something funky like that. And now I can tell that this one is not horizontal, so I hit H, so it turns horizontal. I can also select 2 points and hit H, which will align them horizontally. I select those 2 points and I do the Shift H, and I think our radius was 8, so let's make this one 4. And I take those 2. I keep a little distance so it stays hollow inside. Let's make this 1. Just take this one up here. Well, this is ugly, but it's just test. I could also not completely just constrain this, but hey, that's rude. So I just quickly fully constrain this. So now it's nice and green. And once I leave my sketch now, I can tell it that we want to do a rotational body. In part design, I click the second one, not the pad, but the rotation. And in this case, it did by accident choose the right axis. If you're unlucky, it will rotate it the other way around. But yeah, that's just the options you have. Okay, and I save this one as body 2. And now I can make yet another file. And I will start by saving it. And I call it assembly. And I switch to A2+. And I add my body, which is body 1. And I add my body 2. Okay. And now I can select this face and this face. And give it my coincident constraint. Okay, now now it didn't complain, but also didn't do anything. So I'm slightly concerned now. Let's also try the coaxial. So I selected 2 cylindrical surfaces and make it coaxial. Okay, this did work. So I wonder what happened to my first planes. Sorry, not planes parallel. We want a planes coincident. So I can delete this one and select this face and this face. So those 2 are the 2 constraints that you will mostly use. One is just making stuff parallel, and the other one is making them coincident. And you could also enter an offset if you wanted to keep a distance between them. And now this should work. And maybe we add my Lego piece as well, which was Lego 1. What? Ah, here it goes, okay. And let's say I want to put this one right next to our little piece. So I would select those two faces. And I will go fast on purpose just for showing you that this is, in this case, I wouldn't use the plane coincident. Actually, I will. So plane coincident. Maybe this was my problem before. So I coincide those two. And I coincide those two. And let's coincide those two. And we should have a fully constrained Lego piece that is right next to our other piece. And now I could continue adding more Lego pieces, which is actually what I wanted to do in the very beginning. And so in contrary to Fusion, where you have to do all this funky snapping, instead of doing one snap, you have to do 3 steps. But what I like about it is that those 3 steps, I feel like they are quicker than what Fusion does. But it's maybe just because I'm so used to it. So once you get a little bit used to it, this is very quick. The problem is that now if I change the first Lego piece, my second Lego piece will panic. This is why I would recommend you to try the assembly 3. I still haven't made a lot of experience with it, but I feel that it's more resistant to the topological naming issues than the assembly 2+. And in the worst case, you can always just move your pieces with transform and just move them around where you want. Except that right now that I have all my constraints already set, once I reload, it will snap back into the place where I put all my constraints. But yeah, as I said, some people just use it without any assembly module. They just move the pieces where they belong. If they change something, they move it back. Yeah, it's the good thing about FreeCAD is that it's yours. And you can download the source code. It will always be yours. It will never expire or suddenly cost money. The FreeCAD you have right now is usable for doing a lot of stuff, and this will always be this way. There's only steps forward, no steps backward. Okay, sorry for this slightly exaggerated thing in the end. Yeah, I hope this was a little bit useful nevertheless. And questions? Nada? Okay. So then, yeah, I hope I didn't scare you too much, but FreeCAD still needs a lot of work, but it's already good enough for doing some awesome stuff, as you saw. And I personally would love to completely abandon all commercial software. In the worst case, I have to learn some more programming for doing everything in FreeCAD. But what kind of relieves me is to see that I can throw heavy geometry into FreeCAD, and it doesn't. It's not that it's like if I open an assembly with like a few hundred pieces in Fusion craps out. FreeCAD doesn't. So this gives me hope that there's more to come in FreeCAD. Okay, then I guess we'll see us on Wednesday. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always catch me on MetaMost or in Discord. And yeah, happy laser cutting.
Ferdy, just one question regarding laser cutting. How would we prepare pieces in FreeCAD?
You make the drawing. I would make the files that you want to cut.
In the drawing. Okay.
And then you make a drawing and export the drawing.
Just
Of
like
course you
that.
can,
Okay.
yeah. Like this is just the way that I got used to it. Like you can also do the same trick then in Fusion where you export where you make a sketch and then you export the DXF. But for me, that's an extra step that I don't need. Like if I make a drawing, I can neatly arrange all my pieces. I can make my drawing size exactly the size of my laser cutter, so I can tell if it fits or not. If I have like a funky piece of material that is left over from something and I want to cut exactly on there, I can just quickly draw it in FreeCAD, put it in my drawing, and then arrange my pieces so that they fit on there, and then it will fit on the laser as well.
How can we add depth information or timing information? That's another thing, right?
You mean in the drawing?
Yes, or in some other tool. I don't know. If you want, for instance, instead of cutting, you want to engrave and then cut in the same.
For this, I would export it in a way that you can open it in Inkscape.
Okay.
And then in Inkscape, for this depends a little bit on which laser you're using. Like for our epilogue laser, any line that is thicker than 0.025 millimeters is going to get engraved, and anything thinner is going to be a cut.
Okay. It depends on the. Okay.
Yeah, I think on Daniele's laser, is he, I think he's using VisiCut now.
So you do in the 2D drawing, you just put lines thicker or thinner, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In the 2D drawing. Okay. It's not 3D, nothing like that.
No, it's very. And if you wanted to engrave, just like add the picture to you just drag a JPEG. It's a good at first, so like a realistic image of how it's going to look.
Okay.
Most engraving wood, there's not many shades of gray. Like wood is either burnt or not burnt, so it's either black or not.
Okay.
If you know what you're doing, you can achieve like several grayscales. Like maybe I can quickly show you like the typical the typical test for the epilogue lasers is a Mayan symbol, which you should be seeing on my screen in a second once my internet is cooperating. But this is actually a very nice test that you could use on your laser as well. You can find the file online. It's the Mayan calendar. And this has some very nice detail. Yeah.
Amazing.
Nowadays, you also find one where they, I forgot what they changed the symbols so it looks a bit more funny. But this is basically black and white. So there's not even though it has a lot of detail, it's not like several different depths.
Yeah, it's a great test.
Yeah, on many lasers, you can do like a bunch of squares in different grayscales. So one is black, one is white, and you have like a few of them in between. And you engrave this one, and then you can try this on different materials. And you can see if there's any change in color. Yeah, as I said, unfortunately, the laser most of the time it either burns or it doesn't. So
yeah, you have to solve it.
oh yeah, here. So this would be one where you can actually see different grayscales, so to say. If it ever loads. No, I clicked on the wrong one. Let me see. Oh yeah, this here. Yeah, it depends a lot on the material. Like
That's one
you can,
for the rotational thing, right?
yeah, this is on glass. Let me see if I find another one. Like on, yeah, most of the time it looks like this. So it's either completely black or like I don't see much difference in those colors.
The mid one.
Yeah, you can distinguish maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of burntness, but this depends on the material.
Yeah, that one is not good material to do this.
Yeah,
at least
so,
no 8 at least.
Yeah,
to have some contrast.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I really recommend Inkscape for making your files for the final cut. So even though I might make it in Fusion or in some other software, I might take it through Inkscape, just making sure that everything's all right.
Okay. I will do 2 or 3 designs to test it out. Then I'll talk with you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Then yeah, Vasco, you can once you have a design made, you can just put it on your page or send it to me, and I can give you some comments on what I think is good and or what is not, and I can cut it for you if you want. But the best if you get your laser working so you can cut yourself.
One practical question: How do you work on over there on the weekend? Are you completely closed, or do you have flexibility? How do you do?
Like we are right now, we are basically completely closed, even on the weekends. Sometimes, like the only obstacle to the weekends is the security guys, because when we come, they have to open the door for us, and they are a bit annoyed. But since we have a good connection with them, it might be okay on a Sunday as well. But we usually try to avoid the weekends just for not annoying our security.
I just want to know if you usually go on one of the days of the weekend or not, just to know.
Yeah, like if we go on Saturdays.
Okay.
But recently we try to avoid being in the lab just for COVID reasons.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm also away, so I think we will be away until the end of March. So
yeah,
a long time.
Unfortunately.
Yes, we have to manage somehow. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.